Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining me back here on Decor Crafts. For today's video, I decided to try something new by testing out some of Dollar Tree's craft supplies so that you don't have to. I'll be sharing some of my favorites and some of my not so favorites and showing you how each one of these work. Alright, so let's jump right in. So I'll be first testing out some of Dollar Tree's acrylic paint. I picked up white and black, and for this demonstration I'll be using the small canvases and using the black acrylic paint. I just wanted to do something simple by creating a small chevron pattern on this small canvas just to demonstrate how the paint works and to see if I even like it. So I took a small paintbrush and began to fill in the lines that I drew. Overall, this paint was a little too watery for my liking, but it did its job and it was easy to work with. I am curious to see how this works on other textures, but I'll have to try that on another DIY. I wanted to create a little frame for this canvas using the medium-sized Dollar Tree popsicle sticks. I went ahead and stained them using the Waverly Wax Antique paint. These are so easy to work with. The best part is that all you need is a pair of scissors to trim them down. So for the next products I wanted to test out were these wood glues. They had one in the Crafter Square section, and also I found one in the hardware section. I wanted to demonstrate this by gluing the top part of the frame using the Crafter Square wood glue and then gluing the bottom part using the other wood glue. I was very curious to see which one was going to hold better. I found that the Crafter Square wood glue was a very watery, and this one actually seemed a little bit more similar to the Elmer's wood glue that I use often, and I felt like this one was going to hold a lot better. I also wanted to demonstrate this using two pieces of scrap wood that were a little thicker than the popsicle sticks. So I'm starting off with the wood glue that I got from the hardware section to see how that holds in place. And now coming in with the Crafter Square wood glue, I can already feel that this is a lot waterier than the other one, and even gluing them together it just slid around a lot more while trying to hold it down. So I let these dry for a few hours, and testing out the first pieces of wood, those held in place really sturdy. I didn't find that I was going to break them at all. Testing this one out that says it'll dry in 30 minutes. That one definitely broke off and it did not dry, and this was after a good 2 hours or so. I did actually come back to it after a few hours and it did hold in place. I still would prefer to use the yellow bottle over the Crafter Square glue. Now let's go back to that frame and see how well it held together. I pushed on the bottom to see if it would snap, and it actually held in place pretty well. Now looking at the top portion of this frame, it did not hold in place well at all using the Crafter Square glue, so I had to use the yellow bottle to fix it. Now moving on to some watercolors that I found at the Crafter Square section, I wanted to test this out and see the consistency and how it would actually paint on a canvas. So this actually comes with its own paintbrush, but right off the bat I can tell it's that cheap plastic type paintbrush, so I'm going to go ahead and use my own watercolor paintbrush for this demonstration. Now I'm fairly new to watercoloring, so I decided to try this out first on a piece of canvas that I used earlier, and the colors weren't really coming out very good. They were coming out very watery and I don't know, just not showing up as nice as I wanted them to. So I wanted to give this another try using my watercolor paper that I got from Amazon, and I'll have a link down in the description below, but I went ahead and started painting using my paintbrush that I'll also have a link down below, and I really love the payoff of the colors on this paper. So I think it's a great buy, especially if you're new to watercoloring and you don't want to spend too much money on some paints. For only $1 you can learn a new hobby. I was super excited to finally find the chalk paint from Dollar Tree. And for this demonstration, I decided to use one of these shadow boxes that I had in my stash. I used a scraper to remove the little backing of the homemade sign, and this always works out so great for me. Seeing how this ripped up a little bit, I decided to pop out the backing and then just turn it over so I can paint on the smoother side. Once I removed the back, I just ripped off any little pieces so they wouldn't show. I was actually pleasantly surprised with this chalk paint. I found that it actually had a great coverage and it applied on very smoothly. And also to test it out on a different texture, I decided to paint the frame with the chalk paint as well. Once it was completely dried, I noticed that it gave off more of a glossy finish rather than matte, but it still looked fine. And painting the backing of the frame actually came out pretty great. So I also wanted to try out this craft glue that I found in the Crafter's Square section, and I'm assuming it's supposed to supplement some sort of E6000 or something like that, but I decided to use this to glue on the backing of the frame. So I'd say make sure to not glob this on like I did. Pushing in the backing made a lot of the glue kind of squeeze through the frame and show up on the other side. So all I did was just wipe it down with a paper towel and then paint it over some of the areas that I felt kind of were covered in glue. While we let that dry, I decided to give this glue and residue eraser a try. I've never seen something like this before, so this was very new to me. I don't know if I was using it properly or what, but I found that this was a really weird texture and felt super strange, but I decided to give it a try, and I had a little bit of that glue residue left over on this piece of wood, so I tried sanding it off with this, and I guess it worked out good. It wasn't the best, but I mean, it did its job, and I guess it'll come in handy for later uses. I also thought I'd try this out using hot glue, so I put a strip on the little piece of wood and began to sand off once it was dry. I didn't find that this worked out the greatest. I mean, it really had to work hard at it to get any of it off, but I mean, I guess it's okay. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below if I'm using this properly or if this is for something else. Now, going back to my mini canvas, I also wanted to try out these adhesive and spray glues that I found at Dollar Tree. The spray glue claims that it's good for photos, fabric, paper, glass, foil, cork, metal, and also canvases, so I wanted to give this one a try. The other one that I have is an adhesive spray, and that one actually says that it's just good for paper, wood, and cardboard. So I decided to spray this all over the back of the frame and try to glue it onto the mini canvas. After letting this dry for a few hours, I wanted to check on the results and see how sturdy this was gluing it together. Most of it was pretty well adhered together, but there was one section, which was the bottom, I guess, that maybe didn't get enough of the spray, but it didn't work as great and it was peeling off. I would still like to try to use this on other projects later on, but I mean, for this, it worked out okay. Now, moving on to my next test, I'll be using some popsicle sticks and this little cutting board that I found at Dollar Tree that I absolutely love. And also, I'll be testing out this little Exacto knife or scrap-utility knife set that Crafter's Square has. Exacto knives can be used to cut through different things, but I decided to try this out on just using some popsicle sticks. And what I thought was cool about this set was that it did come with different types of blades to use. I'm just going to use the normal one that is on my Exacto knife that I would normally use. And by the looks of it, it looks like it's made to operate the same way as a regular Exacto knife by twisting up the top portion to insert the blade. Now here is the actual Exacto knife from the brand that I got from Amazon, that I will have the link down in the description box below. But this one operates the same, like I said, by twisting off the top and removing the blade. And you'll see that there's a little slot there for the blade to go in, then you twist down to keep it in place. And I like that this one has a cap for safety. So for the Dollar Tree version, you would think that this would have the same opening at the top to insert the blade, but this one would not open at all. Thankfully, I had a second backup one and I was able to get the blade inside. So to test this out, I just drew on some diagonal lines on the popsicle sticks to be able to test out the knife to see how well it would cut through. So right off the bat, I was able to tell that this was pretty flimsy cutting through and not as sturdy as the actual Exacto knife, but I wanted to keep trying this out and give it the benefit of the doubt. So drawing on another line, I wanted to show you how well the Exacto knife actually works while cutting through the popsicle stick. Passing over this a few times actually cuts through and makes it easier for you to snap in half. I wanted to use the Dollar Tree version a few more times to slice over the line to see if it would snap just like the other one would, but it actually wouldn't, and it didn't actually cut through very well. So as you can see, it does take quite a bit of effort to try to cut through this popsicle stick with this blade. I kind of don't recommend it. I would rather use my Exacto knife. Now, of course, this isn't saying that I haven't used it on any other type of material, so that maybe it can work on other types rather than this popsicle stick. But I'm also not saying that it's not going to work. It does take a little bit more effort than the Exacto knife to cut through. Now, as you can see, they both did cut through, but it did take a little bit more effort. And like I said, I still prefer to use my Exacto knife. Being that it is only $1, you can test it out for yourself and see if it works for you. And finally, going back to my chalkboard, I wanted to test out this chalk writer pen and see how it worked. On the packaging, it says it's good for chalkboards, dry erase boards, windows, glass, and mirrors. Now, the funny part about this is that I assumed that this was a chalkboard paint pen, so here I am shaking it up. So it was to my surprise when I opened this and saw this round tip at the end and was kind of confused at what this actually was. And to me, it almost seemed like it was more of an oil-based chalk crayon, if that makes sense. But nonetheless, I began writing with this to test it out, and to my surprise, I really enjoyed this. Like, I was super shocked, and I really liked writing with this. It's very creamy and glides on the chalk paint, and it just worked really well. I believe they had other colors that I want to go back and try, because this was definitely my favorite find of the day. Now, to really test this out, I wanted to wipe it off and see if it would come off the chalk paint. So I'm just using a baby wipe to wipe the entire chalk off, and it actually worked out pretty well. It came off completely. Overall, I was really happy with the chalk paint and the chalk pen. And I was super excited to have this mini chalkboard on my desk. Another cool feature that I discovered is that if you look at the bottom of the pen, it actually has a twist to be able to get more of the product, and I think this is actually a great buy for just $1. So that's it for today's Dollar Tree trials. Let me know down below if you've tried or if you will be trying any of these products. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for some more boho decorations that'll be in my next video.